Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Shares with me, Kevin Britz, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, leading the charge with insight, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's marketing leadership segment, marketing and communications expert and co-host, Craig Paisley. How you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great, thank you. Yeah, I'm sitting here with 3 layers of clothing on. I was contemplating putting the gas heater on because it's a little bit fresh out there today, but yeah, it's I'm all good. It's been an exciting few days post our national election, and really interested to see where we're heading as a country in this next 5 years of hopefully a really good run on building a future that's really fair and equitable for all.
Well, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, because one of the notable things that I listened, because I just sort of listened to a brief section of the inauguration today, and with the president speaking, one of the notable things he did say was that people have spoken. We have a government now that has to work together. I'm using my own words, so it's not directly, but he also said, we've done this transition and we've got to this point peacefully and recognizing everyone.
That's great.
And like just hearing it from that sentiment, and I'm going, okay, cool. So, and second to that, Craig, interestingly enough, you and I both have lived through when apartheid was here, how that's changed into a whole different government. We've lived through a pandemic, and now we're going to be living through, a democracy that we've never experienced before.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It really is.
Just to be alive currently in the world, in South Africa.
I know, it was quite interesting. My son asked me about that the other day. He obviously wasn't born before the transition to post. He was born post 1994, so he was born into the new dispensation. And he asked me about the fact that we had seen this revolution, this new democracy being born, and then he obviously experienced the COVID pandemic. So he's picked up on one of those major events in the world, and he just said, so what has that journey been like to get to this particular point in time? And yeah, quite incredible that we have been part of that systemic growth into what potentially is the making of a new real opportunity for moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Craig. And I think the fact that we've got to this point and people can see the example that's being set, and I don't know, I suppose the rule of law, and kind of stick to that and kind of go, actually, we need tough discussions, but we also need it needs to be a democracy that people can disagree with and come to a finite resolution together, and not just heavily on one side or the other.
But that is true democracy. Then if it's heavily to one side or the other, you're moving away from the essence of what democracy is.
Yeah, and strangely enough, this weekend I found myself in a group of people who obviously found themselves very comfortable in sharing and speaking and joking, and someone used a derogatory term in the conversation, and I found myself irritated, and I just, in front of probably 20 people, I just pointed it out and said, dude, just because that's something you believe, it doesn't mean everybody believes it. Please don't say that. Please don't use that terminology. And they were all kind of shocked that I was the only one that said anything, but I could see that everybody was uncomfortable with this guy using this term. But I think that's where we are at this point. It's like there's certain things that's just not okay anymore. Racism,
yes, 100% correct. Yep.
Homophobia is not okay. Sexism is not okay. There's so many things. It's just not okay anymore. Like, pull yourself towards yourself and be a better human.
And interestingly, the president addressed just about every single one of those points you've just made in his opening speech, Kevin.
Exactly, and
overall speech, I should say.
The fact that he has said it from that position is profound.
In front of visiting statesmen, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
brilliant.
But before we get sidetracked by politics, and I'm glad that we raised it because it's an important conversation. But Craig, as we start the show, last week we spoke about a bit of AI, and fascinating. I'm leading into it in every way I can possibly do. What do you want to give us a quick summary of last week, and then we sort of go from there?
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. And, to your point, the more I read about it and discover about it, the more I want to play in and dabble and investigate around it. So, yeah, we covered the topic of how AI is directly impacting on marketing and communications last week, and specifically through the use of ChatGPT. We referenced the book summary that I came across titled ChatGPT for Marketing Pros, 10 Keys to Success. And I'm just going to list the 10 keys to success as the summary from last week. So the first key here was personalized content creation with ChatGPT. The second was, I've made a mistake. I've duplicated that. The third one is enhanced customer services. The fourth is chatbots for lead generation. The fifth is voice search optimization. Definitely lent into that around the conversation around the new iOS and natural language capability coming through there, and the advancement of Siri. The sixth is natural language processing for SEO. The seventh is improved data analysis. The eighth is enhanced content creation. The ninth is more inclusive and accessible content marketing. And the 10th is brand monitoring and reputation management. And one where, that's a point where I still think there's a lot of advancement coming, and it's a way off before we see it really being able to manage brand reputation effectively, Kevin. All fairly simple points to consider when applying ChatGPT to the marketing mix, but it's key to remember, though, that ChatGPT still is in its evolutionary stage, and there's a lot more development happening literally on a daily basis in this particular realm, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that's part of the conversation that you sort of brought to this table, because it's not going away. It's not going to suddenly just be over there, right? The more we speak about it, and the more we educate, and the more we share the knowledge around what it is doing, the more empowered we are to be able to use the knowledge. And I think that's key. With some of the points that you've just mentioned, it impacts business quite profound, quite specifically. So guys, if you want to go and check it out, it's amazing what ChatGPT is actually doing, and the keys to the success of what it can be. But Craig, from that, where are we going today, and what are we discussing?
Kevin, it's interesting that you emphasize the importance of this particular proposition and topic. So I actually want to expand on last week's conversation. Firstly, by reviewing some of the best practices that I actually came across, and best practice in applying ChatGPT more effectively, and then actually just taking a quick brief overview on how ChatGPT is and will affect jobs in advertising and marketing. So sort of two examples to cite there as well. To start off with, I'm going to reference the article, How to Use ChatGPT to Improve Your Marketing Strategy. The article was published to rockcontent.com's blog page on the 2nd of May this year, so very, very relevant topical conversation. And the article was written by Shannon Hilson, who is a rock content writer. The article opens with the following statement. These days, it's near impossible to have a conversation about content creation or marketing without ChatGPT being mentioned a time or two. While ChatGPT is useful, knowing how to properly use it and ethically use it is important. And Kevin, this statement talks directly to many of the points we covered last week, especially around the concept of moderation, which definitely helps ensure that the trust and believability and authenticity is in place for brands using ChatGPT.
Yeah, and that's, it's an exciting sort of question to be unpacking, Craig, because there are so many ways that we could actually be doing this. But when you define and redefine what you're actually putting into ChatGPT, it really gives you specificities around your brand, your target market, and that's what's exciting about it. So what are some of the best practices being applied using ChatGPT in marketing?
So Kevin, just important again to note, the inception of ChatGPT was as recent as November 2022. And in that short period of time, the platform's definitely been well received by many, many marketers who in turn have adopted, in turn turned to ChatGPT for their content marketing strategies. And referencing the article that I mentioned a few minutes ago, we note a few key examples of how marketers and content creators are actually using ChatGPT for their content creation and for other aspects of the marketing mix. And these are noted firstly as a supplementary research tool. And again, going back to last week, it's just about understanding what the inputs are to be able to get the right information out on the other side. Secondly is to take guesswork out of keyword search and SEO analysis. Thirdly is to analyze the voice and tone of existing written content. And I think this is such an important facet of ChatGPT, because tone of voice is really where you're connecting or pushing the respective consumers and participants of your brand away. The next is as a fast, inexpensive alternative to traditional content writing. We're seeing that constantly. You and I chat about it on a regular basis. You piloting a lot of your thinking in that particular space. Then for identifying patterns in vast amounts of existing data. And again, this is the space that really appeals to me, because I quite like to understand what the data can pull out to then use it to be more effective in the next level of messaging. Then to improve audience targeting efforts as a tool for creating outlines and content briefs. And then finally, around this area of summary, to take the tedium out of accomplishing repetitive tasks. And I think it's, the summaries ended on the last point, which probably should be the first point, because really, when you get to understand the true value of ChatGPT and AI, is take away the repetitive tasks and free yourself up to do the more strategic human intervention tasks, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think that's what's nice about it, because it comes back to human behavior for me, because
yes.
When we find the comfort, even even as a specialist, whatever specialist field you're moving in or working in, we tend to move to a comfort zone, which is can become very repetitive, right?
Yes.
And when you take that very insight of whatever you're specializing in, put it back into an AI sort of platform like this, and kind of go, how else would I be able to do this? How else would I be able to share this information? Immediately what it does do is it elicits a different thought process. And for me, and that's why I love it, because you kind of go, okay, cool, this is what I'm trying to say. Give it to me in a different way. Give it to me, if I'm landing it for this kind of, and that just gets me to really dive into a bit of critical thinking and creativity around how to say it differently, right?
Yes.
And that's what I love about it. But Craig,
but sorry, Kevin, just to jump in there, I think it's important to understand that the two key points here again is that ChatGPT is a really good productivity tool. And that then, talks back to that aspect of repetitive tasks, okay? Once you understand the power of the productivity tool to take away the repetitive tasks, you put that human construct back into place. But it really is important for marketers to understand that ChatGPT isn't the magic bullet that's going to change the whole marketing industry. It really is about understanding how to use it wisely and knowing what you're using it for, Kevin.
Well, interestingly enough, what I found that I'm doing when I see any AI if I see that it's slightly AI created video imagery or anything, I skip a video. So I'll look at, if I'm watching TikTok and I kind of look at, like, this doesn't look like a real person. It seems quite robotic. I'll just skip through it. And what I'm finding is that, as much as it really elicits information quite quickly, and gets, it does repetitive work and tasks, it can, essentially, there's a human element that's never going to go away. It's never going to go away, right? So, but I mean, you mentioned some best practice examples. Can you expand on the best practice, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. The article notes 4 best practice examples and then goes into some detail on what to look out for when applying these practices. And these are noted as follows. So the first best practice example is understanding the limitations of ChatGPT. And I think that's a nice segue from the last point I made, where marketers really need to understand what they're using it for and how to use it. And here we learn that while ChatGPT does produce incredibly human sounding content and human feel content, it doesn't take much analysis to realize that this ability has limits. And to quote a line from the text here, it says that as with most fully integrated or at least AI generated text, ChatGPT output can be shallow, error prone, and guilty of a lot of circle talk. And I quite like that last piece, because I tested it the other day and I just said, here are the parameters. I want to develop a media strategy. What is the output? And it just literally came back with the same regurgitated stuff. And it was actually not a single layer extra than what we had anticipated and put into our strategy already. So a lot of circle talk. ChatGPT is therefore best used as a productivity aid for human creators rather than as a replacement for them. Reassuring fact there. It can help with brainstorming, outlining, tone analysis, tone of voice I spoke about earlier, language choices, and more. But any ChatGPT generated content you decide to use should always pass through human hands before being published, Kevin.
Craig, so, one of the things that I teach, I call it what is the tea that you're serving, and it comes back to human intervention, and the T is thoughts, emotion, and action, right? But what you're saying there around human engagement, right? Unfortunately, with humans, we have intention, right? And if there's no intention behind what it is you're saying, why are you saying it? And then second to that is, was that the intention that you intended to deliver? If you're using this language, if you're using it in this way to market whatever you're marketing, what is your intention? And a robot's not going to be able to intend anything. It's just going to it's going to throw back information and say, okay, well, this is what you asked me to do, and this is what I'm giving you. The lacking part that AI cannot do is intention. And we already have neuroscience to support leading leadership environments with intention. So I mean, just to that point, it's great that it has the ability, but the intention's gone.
I really like that point of reference there, Kevin. Definitely, thank you for that. The second best practice example that the article references is consider training ChatGPT on custom data. ChatGPT's Plus tier has a custom instruction feature that can actually be very useful for marketers looking to eliminate the guesswork in branding. Well, all marketers should be eliminating the guesswork in branding. That's why they're marketers. And marketers can use it to feed the brand-specific information about their business, their customer base, etc., and then leverage it to create a template instruction for each individual user case. And then that can be further segmented into the different audience segments as well. And key takeaway here is that when ChatGPT knows a brand on this level, it's much easier to use it for multiple purposes, including the likes of basic content creation, customer behavior analysis, and then that brand voice analysis as well, Kevin.
And Craig, to your point, it has these features, right? So depending on what you're putting into the system and what you're putting into the platform, it will spit out a whole bunch of information. So if you're not doing it can also learn, right? So we know that
most definitely
the platform itself can learn what the brand strategy looks like and who you're speaking to, and. So that's what makes using it in this context quite well.
And in terms of learning, again, another good segue into the third point here, because the third best practice is actually master new features as they come out. And this is an iterative, continuous, evolving platform. So ChatGPT is continuously developing and introducing new features that can further streamline any digital marketing strategy, Kevin. Previous versions may include the likes of image feature to help develop graphics, and a voice feature that adds a new dimension to prompt crafting. The advice noted in the article is to continuously explore new options as they're introduced to get the most out of your ChatGPT experience, including experimenting with different ways to integrate them into your strategy and determine what works best. And again, it's that iterative process. That's what strategy is at the end of the day.
Craig, and also, even this call that's just as we started this call, part of me using ChatGPT was like, how do we how do I collate information about every conversation I have? So we have some, and I'm currently using an AI kind of, which I got from ChatGPT that's recommended. This is a transcription tool, so it becomes like, and that's what's nice about the features that they're bringing out, because it's actually learning and sourcing information, and it does it in seconds. I love it.
Yeah, I use transcription tongue twister there. I use transcription tools quite a bit at the end of last week, and I piloted 3 of them, and I must tell you, there's one that was really the most accurate I've ever come across. Not a single word needing to be retyped, rewritten, reinterpreted. So the back end audio understanding inputs have just been so resolute that the output is 100% perfect. So yeah, great to see the evolution there. Kevin, the 4th best practice example referenced in the article is use it to take customer care to the next level. Now, interestingly, we did have a bit of a superfluous touch on this particular topic, but really is something that's vitally important for brand experience. And here, customer care is a topic we've mentioned many times, and as many digital marketers know, it's increasingly important, as engagement and achieving 5-star customer service ratings are definitely key to managing any successful brand, Kevin. And ChatGPT is also an amazing tool for automating various routine-based interactions, providing many different resolution filters and faster responses to questions, and actually keeping customers satisfied overall. I know you and I disagree with some of that aspect, because we like to talk to humans at the end of the day. But that said, the advice noted here is use the custom instruction features to train the chatbots, live settings, and this is achieved by providing background information and configuring potential response patterns to build a much deeper and greater supplementary customer service tools, Kevin. And in closing on this section, but really, again, it's important for marketers to understand that they must avoid some of the pitfalls associated with using the platform. And three points that marketers really need to do is they have to adhere to SEO best practice. You can't throw SEO out with the bathwater. You're thinking that ChatGPT is going to usurp all of that. SEO best practice still is the most important aspect there. You always have to validate content output. And most importantly, in closing on this point, is you have to ensure ethical use, Kevin. The moderation aspect coming to the fore here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Because essentially, when you're going back on information you're sharing, and someone actually asks you about the information, you need to be able to answer them. So if you've just taken content and like, oh well, there's some information, like that's not a useful strategy for anybody. So
exactly, and again, I'm going to use your point of reference earlier. If the intention isn't there, well, that's just it. And SEO plays to intention as well. And again, the validating of content output, that is all directly correlated to intention.
So Greg, with some of the best practice examples in place, how is ChatGPT and AI impacting advertising and marketing roles? Because I'm assuming that some people would kind of go, okay, well, maybe we don't need this person. But again, like about the intention, like what's the...
Yes. Yeah, and Kevin, there's a plethora of content on this particular topic, but an article I came across on Forbes.com addresses this in a very simple and light way. The article's titled, "How Will ChatGPT Affect Your Job If You Work in Advertising and Marketing?" The article was written by Bernard Marr, who's a regular Forbes.com contributor and a writer that I follow extensively, writes really well, very clear, simple delivery of content and thinking. And the article was published some 18 months ago on the 17th of January. And I'm using it as almost a looking glass into the future from when it was written to forecast what the real impact on advertising and marketing jobs would potentially be some 18 months ago. And the two paragraphs from the opening section that really stood out for me read as follows, Kevin. Ask GPT to answer a question or to create a piece of writing, and it will respond in well-structured, natural-sounding human language that most people would not guess has been created by a machine. Of course, this has immediately got people asking, what the implications are for us humans. And one of the first professions to fear that they could be facing the chop are marketers. This seems to be rational because many aspects of marketing and advertising involve creating text, whether it is writing copy for adverts, creating marketing emails, or just writing simple social media posts. Now that everyday machines are apparently able to carry out these tasks, is everybody working in these jobs in danger of becoming redundant? A very real and somewhat alarmist question, Kevin.
Well, look, I want to reframe that question on that point and kind of go, how prepared and or agile are you in your approach to marketing with using AI as an absolute tool to differentiate yourself as a marketer?
Interesting, because the content I'm going to cover talks directly into that, and it really talks to how jobs in marketing could or would be affected in that particular respect. So taking into account that the article was written some 18 months ago, the points raised are still very relevant, Kevin. And the article notes that companies can use technology to create copy for advertising, for marketing emails, for social media posts, and even for long-form content marketing pieces and website copy. That said, though, one has to consider that everything ChatGPT writes or creates is based on what it understands about something that has been written before. This means it isn't actually capable of original thought or creativity in the same way as humans. And again, I want to plug in your intention piece. What is the intention and what is it saying? It isn't actually capable of original thoughts or creativity at this point in time. And again, another point that stood out for me here is that marketers who are used to working in a routine, formulaic way have reason to be worried, Kevin, whereas those that are capable of applying truly human qualities theoretically have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
An example here is to realize, at least relates to influencer marketing, and I really like picking out on this point here, because influencers in theory are individuals that have actually developed a relationship with their audience based on human connection, and the audience is interested in the content they create because of who has written or created it. They don't want content that's created by a generic robot. Another example is if you actually write social media posts for a living and you're doing it successfully, it's likely your audience is interested in your authentic voice, the voice of your brand, and the opportunity to connect with humans behind it. This element of a marketer's work can still not be replicated well by a machine. Hopefully it's not something that will fall by the wayside, but definitely those are two key points where human intervention still is in place, and marketers should not fear about loss of jobs in that regard. So we've covered ways in which ChatGPT can be used in the marketing mix in last week's conversation, but the two examples that I've just referenced, Kevin, definitely for me give reassurance around areas where jobs will not be lost at this point in time, at least, I say.
Yeah. Craig, what's interesting is, and I don't have any supporting evidence for this, but what I've heard some marketers speak about is specifically that authentic voice of a brand. But the second part of it, what people are noticing around influencers is people who are influencing online currently are people who actually who have a point of interest and learning and actually helping change people's narrative. And there's a subtle kind of movement, and I suppose it's the woke nation, that's coming along with it, that kind of goes, why are we paying so much attention to people like the Kardashians, for example? Why influence?
Yes.
Influencing. What value do they have, right? So not only is the intention important and the ethics behind it, who people are starting to trust about information and what kind of information they are sharing is also starting to, play in the forefront of people's minds. And that's what I think people are, not really understanding around. As humans, we're still human. We come from a human intention. So authenticity is going to play an absolute role for why the hell should I listen to you? Like, who are you? And, what value are you giving me? And I think it's a really big conversation that I think people are missing around AI.
Kevin, absolutely. And again, it takes a while to get to really understanding the net benefit. If you're not immersing yourself in this on a regular basis, you're not understanding the functionality and practicality of it. You're never going to understand its true endpoint benefit. And you're just going to be in a position where you run scared thinking it's going to usurp your job. So just quickly on that point, I had a really interesting conversation with one of the leads at Microsoft, and we were talking around, what does the future of jobs look like in preparation of this conversation. And he said to me, Craig, he said, what is your thoughts around the two most frequently advertised positions for new jobs in the world at the moment? And I went, sure, that's interesting, because you and I have spoken at length about the fact that, everybody's scared about what the jobs being lost, but nobody's really considered the jobs that are still to be created. Yeah. And he said to me, the within Microsoft and within Google, the number one job being advertised, because there's not enough talent to fulfill this, is AI engineers. Can you believe it? The second most important on the back of AI engineers is data analysts working with the AI data sets. So, there's a whole stream of jobs that are being created. And while marketers themselves may be fearful that some of their roles are going to be defunct, who in marketing is moving to the data analytics side of marketing and making themselves more valuable than they could ever have been in that particular marketing role, Kevin?
Yeah, and I mean, we sound like we on repeat there, Craig, but it is a conversation we've had before, and you kind of part of what AI is forcing humans to recognize is how do you become the differentiator and work in tandem with this AI sort of thing that's existing now, because we created it. We created it as humans. So as we create, how do we evolve?
And Kevin, to that point, absolutely. Not that we should be sounding like stuck records, but this isn't just a reference to last week's conversation when we introduced the topic. This is a point that we've actually gone back to. Leadership, positioning yourself, brand, etc. is about understanding the net impact in a broader range of everything we do and touch in life, and particularly in business. Absolutely. And say no more around that.
So what were some of the recommendations on how to avoid becoming redundant on the back of ChatGPT being used? Right?
Kevin, first and foremost, marketers need not be afraid of embracing change and adopting new technologies. That's just, you have to get to understand that. The article notes that if you can master using the abilities to augment your own creativity and human skills, then you won't have to worry about AI making you redundant. Instead, you can concentrate on using it to become more effective and efficient marketer, applying the strategic thinking capabilities of marketing. It's also important, Kevin, to remember that the worst thing to do is bury your head, and this goes with any new topic here. Bury your head in the sand and pretend that the technology actually doesn't exist and that it's not going to bring any positive, dramatic change to the industries, including yours. Absolute fallacy. Pull your head out of the sand, take a look around, and get ready to engage and step into it to learn as much as you can. The standout point here is that we've learned from previous errors of accelerated technology-driven change, such as the Industrial Revolution, computer age. Those who prosper will be those who learn to work alongside the technology, embrace it, be part of it, and be part of that iterative process that gives back to technology so that it can learn and adapt and be better for your next round of usage. And this means harnessing the power to assist us while we concentrate on developing and exploiting our uniquely human characteristics. And I want to read that line again because it's a beautiful line. This means harnessing its power to assist us while we concentrate on developing and exploiting our uniquely human characteristics. And this may include the likes of creativity, strategic thinking, empathy, emotional intelligence, and I want to throw intention into that mix as well there. So while we know that ChatGPT 4 has evolved to be able to come closer to emulating some of the unique human qualities noted in the articles, like developing simulated personalities that audiences can actually relate to more realistically than they do with generic robotic voice ChatGPT 3 iterations. Bernard Marr's closing statement reads as follows: "What this means is that anyone wanting to ensure they remain effective and competitive in their role in the future has to keep up to date with the latest developments in the world of AI. That world will be changed forever by AI is inevitable, and understanding when and how those changes will occur and how they will affect you is key to ensuring its effect on your life and in your job will be a positive one," Kevin. And can't get more truer words than that.
Yeah, Craig, I just made a note where you started this piece, and you were saying the importance of change, and I was just, if people don't embrace change, and from a coaching perspective, it's one of the things that people mostly struggle with. So, and every time you go through any kind of coaching process, there's a degree of change that's required, and I always remind people that in your comfort zone, that's comfortable. It's change doesn't exist there. But the moment you realize that change is over there where it's uncomfortable, the degree of your change and the degree of your discomfort is the degree of the learning.
Yes.
Right? And if people embrace that and kind of look at this and go, okay, cool, we are marketers. This is happening. What am I learning, and how does this support what I do? And I think, that at the end of the day will be, a nice forward-leaning kind of position to be in, especially from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, and Kevin, AI definitely is bringing positive change. There's no doubt about it. Improving business automation, that at the end of the day is positive. Yes, there's job disruption to it, but it is creating a whole realm of new jobs, as I mentioned. And it's the opportunity to upskill into different facets of understanding how AI applies to those jobs. Then the data privacy issues, the regulatory issues, all of the things that really talk to running a business, but also in being highly effective in marketing as well. And then the environmental aspects as well, just the ability to produce data sets that we can use in understanding carbon emissions and what functional changes we can make to overcome some of those industries. So don't be afraid of change. Use it to build a better future.
Absolutely, I love that. And just to solidify this point, again, I used ChatGPT while you were talking, going, give me a quote of the day, ChatGPT, and the quote is, "Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you will be successful." And that's from Albert Schweitzer.
Yeah, and that is such a true statement.
Absolutely. So
happiness is the key to success. Correct.
Yeah, and part of that is, it's part of that journey, right? Because we tend to kind of go, when I get there, when I've achieved that thing, right, then I'll be happy. And being at the age I'm at, you kind of it really solidifies that that's absolutely not the truth. It is part of the journey, and love what you do. And this is why we've been doing this show, because we love doing it, right?
Yes, exactly that. That's, no doubt about that.
So please remember to like and share. Craig, thank you for today's conversation, unpacking some marketing around AI. And please share, share, and tune into the live stream shows every week, Wednesday and Thursday for more. For myself and Craig, have a fantastic week. Craig, I'll chat to you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Have a good one. Keep warm.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.